Hello friends, it's Lisa and I'm back with another video. Today we're working on this balloon card that looks like it's happening during a sunset. So the stamp set comes from Hero Arts. I forget what the name of it is, but it's really cute. It's new, so you definitely can get this stamp set. But the first thing we're going to do is stamp the top layer stamps. Then I stamped on some Eclipse masking paper one of the balloons and cut it out so that then I could layer a few pieces behind that, which will give this scene some depth. So you stamp what you want to see the full stamp of first, and then you stamp the layers behind that after. So I only did that one extra layer. Next, I'm taking some masking fluid and masking out the balloons, the stars, and the clouds. For some reason, that was really hard to think of the word for. But yeah, I just masking those out. I let that dry, and you can tell when it's fully dry because it becomes see-through. I sprayed the background with some water, and while I'm shaking up these sparkle inks, which are only used on the background, the foreground balloon images I'm going to use just regular liquid watercolor. But I thought that since I was going for a sunset, it'd be cool if the sunset sparkled and the balloons didn't. So I'm putting the light orange down at the bottom. Next I'm going to put a little bit darker of an orange at the very bottom, but I did want to have that lighter orange down there as well. So one thing you'll notice is I clean off my brush between every once in a while so that I don't get too much color built up on there, because I want a gradation. So that's just a helpful trick, is to clean your brush off, especially when you go from a color like this and you're trying to blend it into the lighter shade. You'll see I clean off my brush quite a few times as I try and move that shade, that color in. This is also why it's important to have masked those balloons, because now the dye ink, which this is dye ink, I can consider it a watercolor, but it's a dye ink with sparkle in it. It's not going to stain those areas. So here I'm adding some more of the orange in as I mix it with the pink to try and get that gradation. Once I get that, I will move on to the top, which is a purple color, and then I'll be done. So here we go with the purple. This is kind of similar to the pink, where it's a very vibrant color, so you just need to be a little bit lighter handed with it. If you'll notice, I've used these inks quite a few times in the last couple of videos, but you could definitely trade these inks out for whatever watercolory medium you had. You could even stamp down some dye ink pads and watercolor with those. There's a lot of ways to add sparkle to a project, so you could always watercolor a sunset, which is actually pretty easy. It's just about getting the whole page wet and adding that color in while everything is wet so that it blends nicely together. And then just spritzing some whatever your favorite sparkle additive is over top. I've personally really enjoyed using these inks, but you can definitely go ahead and use whatever you have. Don't feel like you have to buy everything that I use. Don't do that. So I am blotting up the extra color that's down, especially over those masked areas, so that when I do this, which is take the mask off, I won't smudge that color anywhere, because I've definitely had that happen on other projects. Next, I'm taking my Caran d'Ache water pen. It's my personal favorite water brush. I use the Arteza quite a bit, and that's the one you saw earlier. But for detail work, I definitely like the Caran d'Ache water pen better. It's just harder to fill with water. So I use the other one, the Arteza one, more often. I lightly colored in the clouds with a light purple. Now I'm going to color in the teal. I'm not trying to be super fancy watercolor artist right now. I'm just trying to get broad color in with a little bit of definition, because I'm going to come back with my colored pencils and add some detail and definition with them. I'm focusing on just getting the color down and blocked out right now. Why am I doing that? That's a great question. I'm doing that because building up color with a colored pencil takes a lot of effort. And I'm going to show you in a few minutes, when I get done adding watercolor down, another exact same layout piece that I did with just colored pencils. To get the sky and everything as vibrant as it is in that card, and it's not near as vibrant as this card, took 4 or 5 layers. So to build up color with colored pencil just takes a lot of work. There's really cool things you can do with colored pencils. It's just a very slow medium. I am stopping to show you the colors I'm using. I have quite a few different liquid watercolors. I have the Avery L, Pink Fresh, Hero Arts, and Dr. P.H. Martin's. I don't have every color in the Hero Arts or Dr. P.H. Martin's, but I have quite a few of them. I just like the liquid watercolors. I find them easy to use, so that's why I've gone with them. But you don't have to have liquid watercolors to do this. Really, any watercolor medium is going to work for you. But going back to the colored pencil debate, as I just wanted to let you know, that's why I'm putting color down now, because I only have to put 1 to 2 layers of colored pencil on top to give that definition that I want with the colored pencils. So here we go. The balloon on the left, the yellow one, I'm going to change up quite a bit. So I cut out some of that. You'll see in a minute it goes from being just yellow to having some detail. I change it up a lot with the colored pencils, which is a nice part of the colored pencils. I just want you to know that's why I cut that out, because I do change it so much. I'm showing you here, I'm adding some additional purple shadows on the clouds. I'm doing this because you can see that the cloud is in the purpley area of the card. I felt like the cloud would kind of reflect the different colors in the sky, so I went with purple as the shading color. And I think it also adds to the whole composition of the card where it's the similar color. If I'd added in a light blue, that would have been another color. You actually want to limit the colors that you use. I probably used too many on this card. I would have done better coloring the yellow balloon in perhaps a light purple, just so that I could have more of a pleasing composition. The yellow just kind of is very out there. Like it doesn't really fit in with the rest of the card. This is something to think about. I am mixing a lot of different companies' watercolors. I personally think that it's your collection of mediums, so you should really feel comfortable using whatever colors you want and not worry about what company they come from. So here we are. I'm adding some definition to the green. You'll see here that I go over the full balloon with that green, adding more water with my fingers pressing, and that just gives a cleaner gradation of the shadows. Now I'm adding purple into the extra sections of the green balloon. This just adds a really good contrast to the green because it's on the other side of the color wheel. So the colors look pleasing together and they're very different, similar to the blue and the yellow used in the other balloon. Don't worry too much that the green is real smooth and the purple is not, because I'm going to go back with the colored pencil and fix those mistakes. So here I am adding purple to the little sail. This is to match the purple on the balloon and pull that whole little balloon together. I'm also going to color over that with some colored pencils so that it looks better as well. On the left you can see I've done some work to the yellow balloon, but it's not good work. It doesn't look great. I did use my heat tool every once in a while to heat that up, to dry things a little bit faster. There are my Caran d'Ache Luminance colored pencils that I'm going to be using to finish this card, and here is that piece I talked about just a minute ago. So you can see that after 4 or 5 layers of colored pencil, I still didn't have that much color. That's the great thing about using the watercolor first and then adding the colored pencil on top, because you don't have to be a super amazing watercolor artist to make some really cool pieces, but you also don't have to take the time to build up a ton of color with the colored pencils. You get really the best of both worlds, and the colored pencil colors over the watercolor with no problems. So I'm adding some color, and real quick, I want to explain how this happens. So in this blank Copic marker, I have filled it with Mona Lisa odorless mineral spirits. It's something similar to, what's that stuff called? Gamsol. It does the same thing, it just doesn't smell quite as bad. And I got mine at Michael's, so you can go and get that. And I just use a pipette and drop that in to the marker. Then I color it off on that extra piece of paper so that I don't get too much, I don't mix the colors. It does stain the tip, but as long as you clean it off pretty well, it won't transfer colors to your next section. So I color down the color that I want, and then I blend it out, but with that Mona Lisa odorless mineral spirits. What the odorless mineral spirits is doing is it's breaking down the wax that holds the pigment together, so you get a very soft look. I personally much more prefer the look of colored pencil after it has been broken down. you'll see it looks much softer. On the other card that I did, what I would do is color over the area 4 times. Be that with different colors or with the same color, and then color over it with the marker. Here I did something similar. Sometimes I would use a little bit less color and I'd just be breaking that down because I didn't need as much color or definition like I did with the blue balloon. On the clouds I did add quite a bit of pigment, and here you can see that the clouds look so much more fluffy and fun after I've broken that down. You'll also see that the purple on the green balloon looks much better after having been colored with the colored pencil, because it gets much smoother. You definitely don't need the Caran d'Ache Luminance pencils. You can go with any colored pencils that you have. They're going to do the same thing. I personally like the Caran d'Ache ones because they're so heavily pigmented. You put down less, and you actually don't need that much coloring down to start building up color, or less than you do with some other brands. Just my personal opinion. As well as you don't need as many colors because you can mix the colors with colored pencil when you're using the odorless mineral spirits or Gamsol. When it breaks down the wax, it also kind of mixes the pigments, so you can mix different colors actually. If you're not using the odorless mineral spirits, then you will really only get the top color. So you may need more colored pencils. I think the Caran d'Ache ones come with 72, and that's the full range. The other ones that I would suggest that have a larger range are the Faber-Castell. I can't remember their exact name, but it's the artist quality colored pencils. I think their range is like 200 and some colored pencils, so you get a whole lot more colored pencils, and it probably costs about the same to get that full range as it does to get to the Caran d'Ache colored pencils, but I don't need that many colored pencils. I felt like getting a little bit high quality in the Caran d'Ache was worth having less colored pencils, but that's just a decision I made, and you could definitely get a half or quarter of the full set of either of the Caran d'Ache or the Faber-Castell and be perfectly fine. You don't need to be crazy like me. Next, you can see I'm coloring over that yellow balloon quite a few times. And this is what I did on that other piece where I did 4 layers on top. And then after coloring over that with the odorless mineral spirits, I did add another layer or 2 just to add a little bit more opacity. Next, here's where I think I made a big mistake in covering over the stamped lines with this gel pen. I think either I should have used a smaller nib or not done so. I'm not sure that I needed it. You can kind of see the lines, you can kind of not. This is why I would say I think if I did this again, instead of using the Gina K Amalgam ink in black, I would have wanted to use one of her new amalgam ink colors that then I could have done a no-line watercolor look. I did decide to go in with the balloon on the left and add some white detail with a paint pen. So this is a white oil paint pen from Sharpie, I believe. So I just added that white in as well. I have a lot of issues with paint pens, so it didn't work super great, but since I was adding so little, it worked fine. There you can see I tried to fix some of the blooming that had happened at the top, but I wasn't able to fix it. And so I'm just cutting that off and cutting this down to, I believe, 5.5 by 5.5, and I end up putting it on a 6x6 paper, or 6x6 card. So I'm trying to decide which edge to cut off from. Now, I think that card turned out really cute. There were a few little errors, and you'll see I covered those up with some Lucy's card jewels. I don't think I show that. I don't think I videoed that, but that's what I did. I am gluing some fun foam to the back. Here I forget what glue I used, but it was probably the Gina K adhesive. Next, I took the card base that I had from some card kit, and I'm coloring the edges with just a black Copic marker. And I go over it a few times so you don't get any streaking, but I'm only covering like a 1/4 inch in, or a little bit over, but just enough that it looks like I have black paper down, and just because I felt like that would look better with the sunset effect. The cardstock is thick enough that the black doesn't fade through, so there's really no issue there. Next, I did the same thing where I colored the white cardstock, and then for the sentiment, and I'm going to emboss that with some white ink. I ended up actually doing this twice. I only filmed it the first time, so you'll see that in the end card, I actually have the sending you on top of the love and hugs. But here I'm stamping them side by side. It's literally the same process where I colored down the black. Once that was completely dry, I put on my little embossing buddy bag that gives anti-static powder toolness so that the embossing powder won't stick there. Stamped down with the watermark ink, and then poured some white embossing powder over top, then heat dried that. So here you can see I'm just stamping down the second part of the sentiment. I just didn't get this right. It wasn't looking right, so I decided to redo that. But it was the same exact process. Here I'm just brushing away a little bit of extra powder that had gotten stuck up there, and then I heat it. And if you've never used embossing powder, I would definitely suggest it. It's basically what made me fall in love with card making, because I saw that and then I tried it and I loved it. So here is the end card. You can see that over a couple of the small issues that I had, I covered those with those little jewels, and it turned out super great. Thank you so much for joining me. Here are a couple of other videos you may be interested in, and I hope you guys had a lot of fun. If you haven't done so already, I would definitely love if you subscribed and liked this video, as well as give me a comment below if you enjoyed this video or what you'd like to see next. Thanks. Bye.